Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds Podcast. This is episode number 77. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Caitlin and Adam.
What's up?
Hello.
Woo!
I'm still in the Grand Tetons.
I haven't changed mine since the last time, so I'm still a blue whale.
I'm hanging out with the best picture of a humpback whale ever taken in the history of mankind.
Shush you.
Oh, weird. Oh, I didn't even send you that photo. It's too easy to get Adam.
It is. I make it too easy, man.
To be fair, Adam, it took every ounce of self-control I have to not comment on your Santa Barbara appreciation post and say, weren't some of those from Monterey?
Oh.
Listen, those are 100% Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara is...
Dang, I'm going to share it my story and put you on blast and be like, dude, some of those weren't even taken here. Make sure you,
that is a
make
lie.
Sure you fact check Adam before you like his post.
That's a lie.
Oh my goodness. So what's up, dudes?
You know, just whaling out here. Just seeing whales and hanging out with whales, taking pictures of whales, meeting new whale friends. You know, just good times.
Adam and I met the same whale.
You did? Who?
Didn't even know it. It showed up on my Happy Whale a couple days ago. And it says,
I told you that.
Someone just saw this whale. Yeah, but it wasn't on the podcast, Caitlin.
But Adam's acting like he didn't even hear you say it.
Because he doesn't listen. Anyways,
Who was it? What's
yeah.
the CRC number?
Yeah, it was a CRC 46389 with apostrophe S. I don't know, dude. It might have been an HW one. The other ones were that just say like HW, right?
A Happy Whale catalog number.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, we saw the same whale. And I did see that I have a whale that made it all the way to Nicaragua.
What?
Really?
That's my furthest so far that I found. I asked Kate Cummings if she knows any whales from here that have been to Costa Rica. And she's like, yeah, definitely I have some. So I just have to like find one. You know?
I still don't have one. That's the best part about Happy Whale. It makes me feel like a Pokemon master. They're like, have you seen Fran? I'm like, oh yeah, I got Fran checked off. She's number 14 in the Pokedex. All right, let's go. Who's next?
Be number 1. But Caitlin's seen Fran's mom. That's kind of unfair. Or have you not?
What?
I don't know. I think so.
Wait, so who was talking about Fran's mom the other day?
Oh, like Kate Cummings.
Oh, maybe it was Kate that's seen her mom. But they haven't seen her anymore.
I've seen a lot of whales, so I don't know.
I'm sure you've seen her. So what's the word, Caitlin? What did you see this week?
Dude, I saw the coolest thing.
What?
Oh!
Oh! Actually, 2 basking sharks.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the other thing that you sent us a photo of.
Oh, no. I mean, that was cool, too, but... yeah, so we've been having, like, weird plankton blooms and, like, these weird little ctenophore things that, like, look like comb jellies, but then they have, like, 2 big, long streamers coming off the end of them. I don't really know what they are because I'm not an invertebrate specialist, but, like, right after those started showing up, there were basking sharks starting to be sighted off of Stellwagen Bank. And in the morning, like, it was glass flat calm the first day that we saw them, and we were cruising out, and I was looking real hard just for literally anything weird because it was so calm. And I saw what I thought originally were like gill net buoys with like a flag, and they weren't set with they were set with too long of a scope, so the flag was like dipped in the water. And I was like, that's weird, but I just like didn't really think a lot of it. Well, later in the trip, when we were on our way home in the morning, another boat was like, we have a basking shark over here. And so I started looking really, really, really hard, and I was like, maybe this is a basking shark, not a flag on a buoy. And so then I told the captain, I said, I think I have one over here. Like, let's go over there and get closer. And as we got closer, their fin is just that. I didn't really think it was that weird of a shape and that big. And so then we got closer, and I was like, oh, it was a basking shark. Also, that means I probably saw one on the way out and didn't say anything. Whoops.
Adam, you
So
seen
you're
one
the
before?
first- Yeah, dude. Caitlin, welcome to the very exclusive
Wow.
Basking Shark Club.
Dude, you're such a hater.
Damn,
As your welcoming gift, you get a piece of krill.
Fine. Well, I'm still in the Leatherback Sea Turtle Club without you guys. Okay, bye.
Wow, purple.
That's
Dude,
super
aren't
cool.
they cool?
But
Yeah.
you didn't just see a basking shark. You had a basking shark, and at the same time, 2 humpback whales popped up right at your boat.
Yeah, so in the afternoon, on the afternoon trip, we went out and we were looking for the basking shark the whole way out, couldn't find it, even though we went right through the same area and there had been 2 there. And then on our way back in, we were getting our last looks with one group of humpback whales, and I was like, I found the shark. And so actually our other deckhand Sierra was like, I think I found the shark. And then I looked in the binoculars and I was like, yeah, that's definitely it. So we're watching this basking shark and there's like lunge feeding humpback whales behind.
That's so cool.
So yeah, that was awesome. And then the shark like swam, like we were following it parallel and then it turned and like swam up to the bow so close it almost touched it. Everybody like got amazing views and could like see down its throat, could see its whole body underwater. It was like 20 feet long at least. And then it like swam under the bow. It was incredible.
That's pretty awesome.
Another home run trip, huh?
Did you got good looks at them?
Yeah.
Because the couple times I saw them, it was all overcast skies and stuff, so we didn't really the best looks, and they're like obviously a very dark animal, so it's hard to see them. But we obviously you can see their mouth, the white mouth open, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
they're so prehistoric looking.
On that night, I think on the Patreon. So if you follow us on there, you can see them on there. And there's one where like there was a lot of glare, but I tried to like get the contrast right so you can see the mouth a little bit in one of the photos, which is cool. Yeah, super.
Have you seen that video of the guy paddleboarding? It's in some type of canal or something.
And I think in the UK somewhere you can like kayak with them.
Okay, well they were like everybody's just like shark, and like
they're freaking out.
Yeah, they even portrayed as like a shark in the like the caption and stuff, but it's a basking shark. It's like not gonna do anything.
But I mean, if you didn't know what you were looking at and it didn't have
they're scary.
Or if even if it had,
and their head is big,
you'd be like, "What is that thing? That is terrifying."
They're actually
are
scary looking, huh?
Yeah,
they look like a dinosaur.
Yeah,
like they're wild.
Yeah,
I'll see one someday.
You will.
There's places that they're still pretty common, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think in New England in the spring they are pretty common. It's just last year we didn't start working until the first week of July. So it's just a short window in the springtime that you can see them out here in New England. But in the UK, they're pretty common.
Scotland, in Scotland, you can swim with them and do some cool stuff with them. Let's go, Slater. Let's go right now.
They used to be really common in Monterey, but something shifted, and now they hardly ever see them.
I'd like to see them in blue water, please.
Yeah, but they feed on plankton.
I know. When you Google it, there's like it's like all like clean green, and but there's some blue water ones. I wonder where that's at.
I don't know.
BBC just makes things blue, so everything they film is just in like perfect water somehow.
We also that day that we had the basking shark, we also had surface feeding fin whales. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it in the distance once, and then like one quick little feed at the surface, but it was 2 fin whales together, and we've had loads of minke whales, good numbers of humpback whales, and lots of Atlantic white-sided dolphins. I think we've seen Atlantic white-sided dolphins almost every day except for today. And
their schlongs, right?
Yeah, one Atlantic white-sided dolphin was very excited the other day. I was taking a picture of a humpback whale going down for a dive, and this Atlantic white-sided dolphin was jumping in the background, and when I zoomed in, I was like, that's definitely a male dolphin. So, yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get that photo twice, probably. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, what I will say with lags, both Pacific and Atlantic white-sided dolphins, if you see them do those high leaps, definitely check your photos if you have the angle of the belly, because oftentimes it is a male and his pee-pee's out.
Probably some sort of courtship thing that we don't really know about.
I mean, some of it is the technique, so.
Gotta get some air.
Well, I mean, yeah, they just they rush underneath the female and then jump afterwards. like harbor
Wow.
porpoise.
That's
Oh yeah, I've seen photos of that too. Harbor porpoise.
Yeah, pretty gnarly.
Dang, I gotta step up my game.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my week.
Slater, let's hear it, dude. What's up?
I didn't go whale watching.
Not at all?
I decided I'm out. I'm done with whale. No, I'm just kidding. I went 1 day, I think. 1 day, 2 days. I don't know. I went on. Let me look at the calendar real quick. I went on, not yesterday, Sunday, and it was supposed to be super windy, and it like wasn't windy at all, and it was nice the entire day, and we had literally dozens of humpbacks, like in multiple parts of the bay, so like probably well over 30 plus whales easily, and I spent like 6 hours out there. I actually went in. I called my wife, and Margot came down, and she brought breakfast burritos, and she came out on the boat, and we went out for like another couple hours.
Nice.
But yeah, just dozens of humpbacks. I saw lunge feeding, breaching, peck slapping, tail throwing, pretty much every single behavior I think from humpback I saw. So that's pretty lucky. Pretty lucky day.
That's what we like to hear.
Ah!
What about you, Adam?
I mean, honestly, pretty much the same thing. Like we've been seeing dozens of humpbacks. Today was pretty bumpy out, so we could only get so far. The wind line came in pretty quick, and we didn't even get to our numbers from yesterday. But we had like 8 pretty coastal humpbacks, a couple cow calves, and we had a really good group of couple of really good groups of common dolphins. So they're back in full strength. That's always fun to see. We love our common dolphins. There's like probably 2,000 or 3,000 of them. So
Wow. Nice.
pretty good stuff. And yeah, just a bunch of humpbacks. Same thing. We've been seeing them lunge feed and breach and peck slap and do a whole bunch of cool stuff. So it's been good. Good season so far.
Sweet.
I thought I had common dolphins the other day, and I was like, on the I got on the radio. I was like, I feel like I just saw 2 common dolphins pop up, and then Kate was like, "Do you want to make a bet that they weren't common dolphins?" I was like, "Okay, well they're probably not common dolphins then." And they ended up being harbor porpoise, but like common dolphins, like when there's a thing that common dolphins do when they like, I feel like once they lock onto a boat, they're like, Choo! You know what I mean? Like they just turn and head on to the boat.
Yeah.
And so like these harbor porpoise 2 of them popped up going straight at me. And I was like, oh, like, dude. And they looked, I don't know why, but it looked like common dolphins.
No, they do from a distance sometimes, like, especially if they get that big splash going.
Yeah. And then they turned around. Then they went past me, and I looked back, and then they ended up becoming harbor porpoise.
They transformed.
Yeah. The dorsal fins changed, and they did some funky behaviors. And then.
We had some great looks at harbor porpoise, too, on a couple days because it was so glassy calm. It was beautiful.
The only time I've ever gotten a good look at a harbor porpoise is when a killer whale is punting it out of the air.
I've gotten some looks over the years, but
never really gotten any good looks.
Actually, I've seen a harbor porpoise hunt too up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I've never seen a harbor porpoise hunt.
And it was so foggy that day, and it would have been probably an amazing hunt, but it was just so foggy.
You had another day. You had them twice.
Who?
Harbor porpoise. You.
Oh, you're right. I had one in the sunny day too.
Yeah.
In the sunny day.
In the sunny day.
One in the sunny kind, one in the foggy kind.
All right. Well, are we ready to get into our topics for today?
What
about gray whales?
What about our Patreon only content?
Oh, you're right. We do have an update from all of us. So we are going to put out some Patreon only content. So if you are subscribed to our Patreon, then keep an eye out for that. It will be available soon, if not already by the time this episode comes out. I just want to look at our tiers really quickly, so I say the right names, words, whatever.
Words, names, noises.
Bebop, bop, bop, bop. I'm so excited to post some Patreon only content.
Yes.
We have a lot of good ideas.
So this will be available for the tiers Whale Nerd, Whale Lover, and Whale Obsessed. So if you're in any of those tiers, you should be seeing that content coming through on your feed soon. And we typically like label it, like post update, behind the scenes version of the episode. This will be labeled probably like Patreon exclusive or something like that. So if you're our Patreon follower, thank you so much. This is one more benefit that we're adding to you. And then also, if you're interested in supporting our work on Patreon, that's one more perk that's going to be a part of your monthly contribution to our work. So, yes.
And if you are a Patreon member and there's something that we're not doing on there or something you would also like to see, we'd love to give you guys like more benefits if we can. So if there's something that you guys have an idea of, let us know on Patreon.
Also, you have the ability to suggest podcast topics to us. So whether you want it to be Patreon exclusive or just for a regular episode, like feel free to message us through Patreon and send us your ideas. That is one of the perks that is currently available, and we don't really have people use it very often. So just let us know. We'd love to hear what you want to hear about.
Yo.
So now ready for gray whales.
Now you're ready for gray whales?
Yes.
Are you? We're gonna learn some stuff.
Boulders of
I'm
the
ready
sea.
I'm ready to be learnt.
The crusty whales of the North Pacific. But we're also going to talk a little bit more about the North Atlantic. So, the first paper I was looking at and had lined up for today was a paper that just came out in last year, January of 2020, in Endangered Species Research. And it's called The Co-Occurrence of Gray Whales and Vessel Traffic in the North Pacific Ocean. And basically what they did is some modeling to look at the overlap of vessel traffic and gray whale habitat use. But I thought that they did a really nice job in their introduction of defining like where these whales are during what times of the year, and like clarifying the like two populations in one like feeding group that may or may not get its own population designation. And basically they looked at areas of high vessel traffic throughout the year along coastlines, intercontinental trade routes, and hubs of commercial shipping near port entrances. And then they looked at like the exposure of gray whales during like these designated, I don't know, I guess what we call seasons. So feeding, southbound migration, wintering, and northbound migration periods. And the most high risk that they found were Russia Far East, so Kamchatka Peninsula, Sea of Vostok, and the Bering Sea along the Aleutian Islands, but then also the Gulf of Alaska and the entire west coast of North America. So like basically everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it also says on the northbound and southbound migration.
Yeah. And so part of what they sort of like floated all these ideas, basically that obviously tanker and container and bulk carrier ships are the most considerable risk. But you can't discount the extent of commercial fishing activity as far as vessel strike risk, and then also ferries and even whale watch vessels and things like that. The number of gray whales killed by ship strikes every year could be in the tens, but even as high as the hundreds each year. So they, obviously it's if a whale gets hit out at sea and then sinks and is never sighted, like you're not going to be able to record it. So they have to operate with some assumption that they're missing it. So what I thought was cool about the Western North Pacific gray whales, so the Russia side, is that they talked a little bit about the exploitation and like the range and stuff. So the whales were heavily exploited and almost hunted to extinction in the 1960s. They think there's about 200 whales feeding off of Sakhalin Island in Russia during the summer and fall, and it has been slowly increasing since the 1990s. They are currently listed as an endangered subpopulation if you look at the IUCN Red List. And then they fall under the Endangered Species Act protection and the Marine Mammal Protection Act in the United States. And then they also were just listed as critically endangered, recognized by the Russian government as well in 2020. So that's something that's pretty cool and a new development for conservation for them. So they think that some of them feed off of Sakhalin Island in the winter and then do migrate all the way to Mexico based on photo ID and also a few satellite tagged whales. But they think that some may still go down the other side of the Pacific. They've cited them as far south as northern Japan in the wintertime. There was papers about it in 2008, 2015, and 2016. So still,
and they're staying down on that side of the Pacific, or are they crossing at a way bigger crossing?
That's a fair question. I actually don't know.
Like, because if they go down
Slater
and then they
stumping
cross, it's like that's a long distance.
Yeah.
Right?
I think basically they're like, well, we see them in this part of Japan, and then we don't know what happens after that, I think is what's going on. I would have to go back and look at those other papers, though, to know for sure.
Another whale mystery.
Seriously. The abundance of the eastern North Pacific gray whale, so the ones on the North American side, they had it at about 27,000 in 2016. And they do list the 1999 to 2000 unusual mortality event as one of those like fluctuations in population. And then they also talked about the most recent UME in 2019 and 2020. However, the one thing that like kind of stood out to me about them acknowledging the UME is they're like, it's of unknown cause. But like, if you ask like Jim Sumich or other people that were studying the whales at the time, they're like, yeah, we had a really bad El Nino and the whales starved to death, which is basically what people are saying about the UME that just happened in 2019 and 2020. It's like the whales are underweight.
From the 2016 or El Nino or what?
Yeah, I get the water blob basically.
Yeah.
So
it just, you know what's weird about this whole gray whale stuff? It's like we know where they live, we know where they go to breed, we know where they go to eat, kind of. I mean, they spread out up there, but it's like you would think we just kind of know a lot about these animals.
Yeah.
But we still don't know like that much about gray whales.
Yeah. Yeah, they still leave us in suspense on a few things. So, basically they were saying in the summer, so from June to October, that whales are feeding off the Bering, Chukchi, and Beaufort Seas. There's also a small component that feeds off of British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. That's that Pacific Coast feeding group. And then the Western North Pacific gray whales feed on the northeastern shelf of Sakhalin Island and in the Russian Far East. And to a lesser degree, they're still calling them Western North Pacific gray whales, but they're feeding in southeastern Kamchatka. Sorry if I'm butchering that. But yeah, then they travel through a bunch of really just gnarly, heavily used seas, basically. If you look at the maps in the paper, it's like a heat map. So like red is where the overlap risk and the collision risk is the highest. And it's just like the entire coastline, which is awful.
It's tough just because like obviously we know gray whales hug the coast, right? So the most boat traffic is going to be on the coast, whether it's from, you know, commercial shipping vessels, whether it's from passenger carrying vessels, whether it's from private boats, whether it's from whale watch companies. Like they're just obviously the most at risk whale, and that's just kind of the way it is, and it sucks that that's the case. But I think it, especially here, like in California, you know, like in places like Newport Beach, you know, you can have whatever, like 15 private boaters on one whale or two whales, and it's just like they don't know how to, you know, react around a whale. They don't probably know their migratory patterns. They don't know how to predict what they're going to do. So it's just super frustrating and tough. I mean, for us and obviously for the whales as well.
Yeah. There's also I'm looking at these models, and some of the areas that they have mapped as potential whale use areas. There are areas where these gray whales could potentially use these spaces. and there are not a lot of the likelihood of collision is less-ish, kind of. Not really. I don't know.
Potential whale use area. Yeah.
If it's
But I
purple,
mean, even
it's
then,
still extremely high. There's not very many low risk areas, I guess, basically is the better way to say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, very coastal whale. We're trying to coexist with, and honestly, I don't think we're doing the best job. But the other thing that was kind of interesting that I pulled away from it was this is all obviously modeling. This is not like documented, number of incidences or anything. They used the AIS data for vessels. Like they describe all the criteria. It was like 300 gross tons or higher, 150 gross tons or higher with 12 or more passengers on an international voyage. They had like a couple. They were big ships they were tracking on AIS.
Well, if that's the requirement, then we don't even know what the smaller private boaters are even.
But then, and that's all from 2019 data. The other question I then have, or I guess the other comment I have, is as climate change continues, shipping lanes and routes are going to change, but also whale distribution is going to change. So how relevant is this model going to stay? There wasn't really any comments at the end of the paper kind of touching on that at all. Because, like, what if ships start going across the North Pole? Like, what if they start using the Northwest Passage? What if whales start pushing even further up in there? Like, how does that change the dynamic,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If whales up there and ships don't go up there, so.
Speaking of, ship strike, we obviously had that pretty gnarly ship strike encounter off of San Diego not too while ago with the Navy. Navy showed up with 2 dead whales on their tied to their hull, or it was on their bow.
I think it was across the bow. I haven't read the article too closely yet.
Okay, I heard something about it being on the side of the hull, but and it was a cow-calf pair of fin whales, and I put my take out there, and my 2 cents out there, and some people agree with what I said and some people didn't. I essentially just said, like, it's really not the Navy's fault. Like, they hit these whales in the middle of nowhere. They could have hit these whales in the middle of nowhere, and they're equally as, like, they have the equal chance of hitting a whale as the same that we do as whale watch boaters. Like whales can just pop up anywhere. Like it's such a hard topic to really decipher and really get down to, but people are just really nailing the Navy for it, and it's like, at the end of the day, they hit these whales and they didn't know, and that's awful and that's sad. But
well, what about the ships that are carrying their iPhones across the Pacific?
And that was my point for people. I was like, you need to hold yourself accountable the same as anybody else. Like, if you everybody uses commercial ships, like that's just how the world's commerce is at the end of the day. So if you're really mad about this, you're also part of the problem at the end of the day, right? So it's just a very complicated issue to tackle. And one of my followers responded with something that was really interesting, and I told him about the shipping lanes here in Santa Barbara and how they're trying to move the lanes north because in the summertime, that's the blue whales feed right along the islands, right along the shipping lanes on like the 12 line or the 10 line. But at the end of the day, if they move those shipping lanes north, that goes right into the prime feeding grounds for the humpbacks in the spring. Yeah. So, one of my followers suggested, like, what about like an annual moving shipping lanes, right? So like in the spring when the humpbacks are around, it's further offshore because the blue whales aren't there yet. And then when the blue whales show up offshore, you move it further north. And I think that's realistically the only positive outcome I've really heard about this.
It's really tricky to do that because, like, I look at so like we have the slow zone for right whales, right? So the way that the federal government runs it right now, it's a moving target all the time based on sightings, real-time data. But the messaging is pretty inconsistent so far. Like, we actually, one of our fellow companies out of Gloucester, they called NOAA and were like, please explain to me, are we in a SMA? Are we in a DMA? What's the boundary? what's the actual rule? Like, I'm just trying to do the right thing here. I don't understand, like, where I'm supposed to be slowing down or where I'm not. And, like, we're people that, like, care about the whales and take the time to read all that stuff. And, like, we still couldn't quite understand it all. We had to call and ask for help. And so, like, if you're going to put shipping lanes on moving targets, like, I can imagine, especially for international crews that English is not their first language, like,
for sure,
it'd be really difficult to manage. So,
yeah. I got this.
It's just a very, very complicated issue.
I got a very similar DM about the two fin whales.
Yeah.
And they asked me, well, they were mad at the ship, right? And they were like, well, why aren't they using? They have so many instruments to use to know where these whales are. And I was like, but they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only way to see whales is by using our eyesight. If you're seeing them on a sonar, it's probably too late, anyways. Yeah. Or they're below you, or you past them, and this is, and it goes back to, do you remember the talk where they were saying that the blue whales and fin whales are at the surface more at nighttime?
Yeah.
They're taking shorter dives. So this also could be happening at night too. It's probably not happening broad daylight.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't understand, like, vessels that size don't have brakes. They don't stop.
It takes a long time to stop.
Train. It takes a long time to stop. And I think for me personally, the two things that I see as most effective is, one, as consumers, we need to be conscientious about where our products are coming from, because you're right, Adam, you are part of the problem in a global economy. So buy local as often as you can. And if you are going to purchase something that you know is sourced internationally, think it through. Like, put the environment in your decision-making process. But two, the thing we could advocate for as consumers as well, at least on that end of commercial shipping and vessels, is speed limits, things like that. Like, if the boats are going slower, it gives the whales a better chance. So
yeah, that's definitely two really good points. It's such a complicated issue, and I got like one person saying like, oh, you know, you're saying all this, but like, what are you doing for the animals? It's like, you're right. Like I have all this camera gear that, you know, I've bought and has traveled on ships at one point or another, you know, like, I think we're all part of the problem, but we can also all be part of the solution. It's those mentions of, you know, maybe you do make it an annual shipping lane where it changes, or you just think about these processes more in depth, you know, and it's not like I've done the survey flights to try to, you know, track data and see where these whales are feeding at what different times of years. Like, we all are in this game together, and it's not a one versus another person. But it just really turned into a negative thing, and I hated to see that, because we could be whale watching out there, and a whale could pop up right in front of us. You know, like, that's just the way that the animals work. Like, you just don't really know. Obviously, like, when we're in feeding zones, like, we're going slow, we're looking out for whales, but sometimes the inevitable might happen. I'm not saying that we've ever hit a whale, and we're really conscious about it, as most whale watch companies are, but it could happen to anybody. So that's just my thought about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think back to that conversation we had with Jeff Friedman from Maya's Legacy about like the salmon fishery and the southern resident killer whales, and he's like, we all actually just need to work together, because at the end of the day, we all want more fish, right? And like that's kind of the same thing with like global shipping.
Nobody wants to hit whales. Nobody wants to hit whales. And it's just, I get the same thing with the entanglement stuff. Like, I've been starting to do a lot more of that stuff. And it's like, nobody wants to entangle whales. You know, the fishermen, if they get a take against their fishing company, against their fishery, like, that's a huge amount of profit that they lose. That's a huge hit on them. They could lose their entire fishery, you know, and like, it comes down to working together, talking with each other, and not blaming one group or another. Like, nobody wants to entangle whales. Nobody wants to run over whales. It looks bad on everybody, whoever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we're a lot stronger together than we are apart. So that was just what I wanted to bring up about that. Like, it just seemed like there's a lot of negativity going around there about those two fin whales. And obviously, like, it's such a tragedy, but why blame people when you can work together is my point. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, to get out of the Debbie Downers, let's move along.
Speaking of sad topics, let's
let's go. Let's move
Talk
from
about
one
gray
Debbie
whales some
Downer to
more.
the next. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's not fall down this downward spiral. Let's try and just like
I'm trying not to.
keep her moving. So speaking of that unusual mortality event from 2019 and 2020, I'd say that the 2021 season is kind of worthy of the same designation as far as a UME goes. During this northbound migration, there have been 9 dead gray whales reported in the San Francisco Bay Area since April. And the causes were entanglement, trauma from ship strike, and malnutrition were the most common 3 of the ones that they could determine. And there was also one gray whale that was very underweight that was also documented for 47 days in San Francisco Bay. And I think it seemed like it was trying to feed. So, yeah. Rough go.
I wonder how toxic it is inside of the San Francisco Bay. You know what I mean?
It's pretty gnarly if you look at some of the water quality reports.
It's probably just poisoning itself at that point, right? Like,
what'd you say?
I said it's probably just at that point poisoning itself, that whale, if it's really trying to feed down in the sediment there. I mean, who knows, but
yeah, I don't know how much of that, how acute would the effect be, right? Like how quickly would that toxin load be the issue over the starvation? I don't know.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Like they could eat there for 2 years and then it finally hits them.
Yeah.
Or they could eat one bad starfish and then
that's it.
That's it. And I wonder if that's literally just in the Bay Area, meaning like inside of the Golden Gate Bridge, because I saw that photo. Okay, see, because I saw that photo of a dead gray whale that someone randomly I follow saw, I think, south of the bridge, but like on a lookout point, they saw a dead gray whale.
I'm talking about the live whale, but for the dead whales, I think it may be outside of there as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, even if things pick up but gray whales start to use San Francisco Bay, just like humpback whales have started to kind of reclaim that area, it just goes into like San Francisco's a busy port, kind of circles back.
Shipping, yep, right there.
So we gotta, still gotta find a way to coexist in a very busy place.
It's so tough. Like when you look at these coastal species, like coastal bottlenose kind of go through the same thing, right? It's just like pollution, trash, toxicity levels, boats, like
at least for them, the boats,
it just seems,
I feel like for them, the boats aren't as big of an issue at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But it just seems like the closer these poor things are to humans, the worse it is. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough to coexist with us. We are just a rough species, man.
We really are.
I think about that a lot when I'm on the boat. I'm like, man, we're something, aren't we? Okay, so the next paper that I wanted to talk about came out in April of 2021, and it's a pretty brief paper. It's basically just writing up the tag data from a satellite tagged gray whale that went from Baja to Alaska, and they actually think that it's the first, or it constitutes the most complete northbound reported migration of an eastern gray whale. So they do believe it's a west coast of North America or eastern North Pacific gray whale. And on February 12th, 2017, it was tagged in San Jose del Cabo, Mexico. And it had a satellite telemetry transmitter put on it. And the signal stopped on July 11th of 2019. But its northbound journey, this whale went 11,387 kilometers, which is 7,075 and a half miles in 149 days to get from Mexico to what they are calling, quote, its final destination in Alaska.
So deployed, is that where they found the tag? Oh no, that's where it was deployed. My bad.
That's where it was deployed. Yeah, that's where they put it on the whale. And then I don't know if anyone knows what actually happened to the tag, but it stopped transmitting in July. So,
Dude, could you imagine spending half of the year walking to a restaurant, and then once you get to that restaurant,
miles to a restaurant,
walking 7,000 miles to a restaurant, and then once you get there, eating till your heart's content, and then turning around and doing it right back again? Like, that's wild.
So in that picture, Caitlin, there's an arrow and is a PTT. Is that the tag?
Yeah.
So what's the arrow? They obviously were taking a sample of it at the same time.
In which figure?
In figure 8B. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. In figure 1.
Yeah. In figure 1, I think they took a biopsy dart and put the tag on at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna harass the animal, you might as well, like.
Dang! Do you see this though?
Dude, March. Oh my gosh! Look what they do in March. What the heck?
Wait. Hold on. You see that?
Like, look at the.
Yeah,
it goes inland, and then it goes out, and then it hangs out with the Kodiak bears off Kodiak Island, and then it goes out. Oh, see, do you see that where it starts to go purple, right? You see the Aleutian Islands?
Yeah.
Dude, that's probably that spot where the killer whales wait and they hunt them right there.
I think it was feeding there. Let me go back to the write-up.
In Kodiak, it was feeding.
But look at.
Yes, because there's 14 days where the whale covered 591 kilometers off of Kodiak Island in late April that they suspect the whale was feeding, and then it continued on to what it was, quote unquote, its final destination. So the days and the distance traveled exclude those 14 days because the whale was not actually traveling, it was feeding. And yeah.
But look at this information. It's just the fact that in March and April, it's covering so much ground. Like, compare that to February. Like, February, it's probably just.
Where are you seeing these dates at, Adam?
Oh, excuse me. Let me back up. Let me back up a second. Okay, the 11,000.
It's the lines.
The 11,000 kilometers, 149 days is the total distance and days the tag was deployed that it made its journey. So what they're calling the actual migration from Ojo de Libre Lagoon to Chirikov Basin was 8,863 kilometers.
Okay.
For 61.5 days. So
So it's putting on. Wait, what? I'm confused now.
So in 1 month, it made it literally from Baja, past Washington into Canada.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm saying.
What do you think? It's a super whale?
It went 5,500 miles in 60 days. So in 2 months.
I can't even get to the wharf in a couple days.
The average speed of 5.5 kilometers per hour. That's pretty fast.
Dude, that's really fast.
Dude, you could ski behind that thing. If you were like a little ant or something.
But just look at that. It goes from. That's crazy. That's probably honestly really good to know, just in terms of like, hey, dude. In March off the California coast, they're hauling stay out of their way. Like,
I mean, I will say that I usually say in my narration about migration that they're going about 3 to 4 miles an hour, and 5.5 kilometers per hour is about 3.5 miles an hour.
That's gnarly.
They're just kicking those little tails up and down, up and down. I mean, even is that distance pretty close to the same? Where the orange starts in April. I wonder if they're just like cooking, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that based on the track lines that are available in this paper, like they just haul it until they get through the Gulf of Alaska, and then they might slow down and eat and calm down a little bit. But they're going.
Who the heck drew the line?
Wild.
Like who did the line through Canada?
The whale did.
No. I'm talking about who did this line? Like who decided right there? Like, you know what? You get this sliver of the Pacific Northwest, but we're gonna keep this left side that's on the ocean. You see what I mean?
What?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Oh my god, dude. Zoom in. Up in Canada. Like, no, figure 1, up in Canada, it's just like you see the light gray is Canada and the dark gray is Alaska.
Oh.
Like, who divided all that up?
Oh, you're saying like back in the day.
Yeah.
When we bought Alaska,
Gray whales don't care.
1800s.
No, the gray whales don't care.
They just
They're
go right through
international whales, dude. They're born in Mexico, and they go through all these different places, and they don't know that it's different countries or different states or anything.
I wonder if there's ever been a whale born in Alaska, a gray whale. Like they just she forgot she was going somewhere. Because we do see them born on. We do see calves on the way down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
some of them are like
sighted as far north as San Francisco on the way down.
that's as far. That's the furthest they've seen north.
I think maybe even further than that, but I know for sure San Fran.
I bet Jim.
Do you think they? Do you think they have different accents for each different spot they're born? Like they have an Alaskan, then a Canadian, then like a Californian, and they're like sawed it.
I don't think gray whales have that eclectic of a language system like killer whales or something do. But
Adam was trying to make a joke.
Maybe that's what Jim Sumich should look into next. The accents.
The man's trying to live a happy retired life. I don't think he wants to take on any new projects.
Oh, he's not talking about gray whales anymore?
I mean, he still talks about them, but I don't think he's trying to pursue any new active projects. I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask him. But
so it looks like there needs to be a new Jim Sumich.
Yeah.
And his name is Slater More Photography.
Whoa, dude. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to like school and stuff. Wait, Caitlin, question: do you think that at this rate, if these whales keep dying off like this, they might get taken off the endangered species list? I mean, put back on?
I don't know. I guess what I don't understand on the management side is like what the threshold is. Like
When
how
did they
long do you continue to have a UME before you're like, we need to redo the status?
Like this is not a UME. This is like
Yeah, this is like a steep,
something's going on.
this is like a prolonged
I-
decline.
I know we were talking about how like the UME is most likely caused by like the El Niños, but what if they're just out of carrying capacity? Like what if they've recovered to a point to where they hit the ceiling and then they?
Well,
But
I
you've
mean,
been saying that for how many years now? That I've been saying that since like 7 years. 10 years. I've been hearing that they're at carrying capacity.
yeah. So the carrying capacity question, like that's going to take years to answer, right? Because you're going to see it teeter totter right there at the line for a long time before you figure out what the line is. So that's why I'm saying I don't understand what the threshold is on the management side, like when you decide to reclassify or when you decide to wait and see.
Because it's
Don't we have
30,000?
What was that?
There's like 30,000 of them.
Yeah, 27,000 was the last official.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, if they hit 25K again, or 20K again.
Yeah, so there is this magic number called a percent biological removal. So that's how many whales can be removed from the population on an annual basis without a population level impact. And for a species like blue whales, the PBR is less than 1. So, and that's from non-natural causes.
Non-natural,
so
yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know off the top of my head what the PBR is for gray whales.
So the blue whales are just.
Do we not have?
They're like out of luck, literally.
Do we not have records of whalers like from the different lagoons saying like how many whales they slaughtered? And can't you add that?
Yeah, they think that the number was like 100. They think it was 150,000.
But then
what the heck?
Some like documents that wasn't there some places that didn't document it well, that people from other countries that came in or something like that?
Well, there's also a very covert Soviet whaling effort that went well into beyond the
that wasn't grays, was it?
I don't think so. It's mostly humpback whales and fin whales, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how well. We'll talk a little bit about it in the Atlantic, but I don't know how well some of the records are. But the genetic population studies and the Scammons logs and stuff on North Pacific gray whales, they all pretty well agree on somewhere around 150,000. But the problem is
that's crazy.
The problem
today's
is
day and
that
age.
the entire ecosystem has shifted with how much extraction we have done from our oceans and how much we've changed the productivity of the oceans, removing all these large animals. Wow. So can the current ocean habitat sustain that many gray whales anymore?
Well, I mean, if it is the carrying capacity, it clearly can't. Like if it's
so that's the thing we don't know.
That's crazy. It's the same thing. I always wonder, like with blue whales and stuff. It's like everybody says 350 to 400,000 whales before the whaling era, And it's like, even if you could get it back to that number, like the world can't support that. Like the oceans can't support 350,000 blue whales.
How do you know?
But that's my point. Is like
Well,
we don't
yeah,
know,
but
but at the same
Adam,
time, it's like
there's a whole system though, right? So maybe they're helping support themselves. So if there was 300,000 blue whales, there'd be 300,000 pooping blue whales,
Yeah.
and they're
I know,
feeding the webs.
But my point is like if we don't have like big
Get 'em,
predatory
Slater.
fish, like
I'll root myself on.
like if these populations of whales and bluefin tuna and everything have decreased by 90%.
Yeah, dude, we got like 5
How
years. Not many fish left. Okay.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Let's go.
saying. Like we're all screwed.
Or not.
Yeah,
We'll
it's kinda
figure it
scary,
out.
right?
It's terrifying.
Let's just think positive, and we'll figure
Yeah,
it
I
out.
know.
We got a lot of science out there right now.
That would be my other takeaway from all these solutions, right? Think, be a conscious and informed consumer, advocate for slower shipping speeds, but support science. That would be my
Yeah.
other one.
Support
Especially
whale
when you're
science.
voting. Especially when you're voting.
Yep. Yep.
Support science in your vote.
So, okay, so we have two more reports. One of them's going to be kind of a long one, so I guess this episode's going to be long. But, you know, I just love gray whales. They're very near and dear to my heart, those crusty little animals.
Give me 1 second here, Caitlin, to pull up the article.
So this
Dude, they are
paper
crusty.
is from 2018. It was published in the Royal Society Publishing. And it is the forgotten Mediterranean calving grounds of gray and North Atlantic right whales. Evidence from
Ooh, I'm
Roman
excited for this one.
archaeological
Ooh.
records. So, like, let's just think about that for a second. First of all,
That
gray whales
is
and right whales in the
beast.
Mediterranean. What?
Wait, say that again. Gray whales and right whales in the
Yes.
Mediterranean.
Yes. They're
I got to do
based-
two things. One, I got to get a thesaurus. I'm just kidding.
And two, I have a time machine so I can go back and
And
see
then
that.
hold on.
Thesaurus.
Where they're getting this evidence from is an archaeological dig from like the pre-Roman era.
Okay, where'd they
Hold
move the
on.
Mediterranean to?
What
Hang
now?
on. First off, was this Pangea? How far back are we? Kate? You gotta get through some preface here, dude. I see the Mediterranean. I found the Mediterranean.
We're talking
So,
like 2,000 years ago, bro.
damn, and they went right through Gibraltar, huh?
That's what the argument is here. So, the paper talks about, gives some history of like whaling and records and things from the North Atlantic on the European side. And they actually do a really cool breakdown of Basque whaling. And one of the excerpts from the paper that I liked was early Basque whaling was strictly a coastal activity targeting eastern right whale calving or migrating through the Bay of Biscay, particularly mom-calf pairs. And Basques and other whaling nations subsequently targeted right whales offshore in their northern feeding grounds, whereas the coastal American whaling exploited the western migration and calving areas. So there was like European whaling, American whaling. They were obviously one of the most valuable and easy to capture. That's how they got their name, right whale. They're the right whale to kill. They were designated commercially extinct in the mid 18th century. So like you couldn't hunt them anymore because they were so difficult to find. And even after being designated quote unquote commercially extinct, there was still like opportunistic take of North Atlantic right whales. The species became very close to biological extinction with just a few dozen individuals remaining on the western North Atlantic side, and they were given legal protection in 1935, but now they're deemed functionally extinct in the eastern North Atlantic, and the only subsisting population is the ones on the west coast of North America, so the east coast of North America, so the western North Atlantic, and they estimate that they're at less than 6% of their original population in numbers. So that's about right whales, but kind of interesting of how kind of things happened in the North Atlantic for whaling. And then then they're arguing, which we kind of touched on last episode, that gray whales and right whales use very similar breeding habitats, and that gray whales were also a target of Basque whalers during the same time period. So,
dang, I wonder if there was ever any right whales in the lagoons in Baja.
I don't know.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh, me. Can we take a pause break, you guys? We have to go whale watching off Gibraltar. If you Google it, the first thing that pops up is photos of sperm whales and killer whales. I'm just saying two whales I really like to see.
All right, well, let's go.
Whale watching there is Jamie.
Who?
Jamie, the
Your
natural
friend?
with a Cape Ann.
Yeah, your friend.
Yeah.
She works there?
She went whale watching there.
First off, going to a place named Gibraltar just sounds cool in itself. I feel like you're going to some sort of like
Dude,
castle.
what the heck? Listen, Santa Barbara and Monterey are great, but there's a whole wide world out there to explore.
Oh, just want to see all the whales everywhere.
And the place that we need to go, just if you guys are wondering out there, it's called Tarifa. Tarifa. I don't know how we fly in there yet.
Pilot whales.
Yeah, dude, all the ones that are down deep and eating squid and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to Gibraltar. Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk more about North Atlantic gray whales. Early 20th century whalers and scientists alike considered gray whales restricted to the North Pacific until there was archaeological and paleontological studies that revealed over 40 bone specimens on the European and North American Atlantic coasts. So that's pretty incontrovertible. Like, there definitely was gray whales over there. And they think that gray whales even survived into the 18th century in the North Atlantic. And there are some historical records that show that gray whales were considered economically valuable and pursued by whalers. But the records are fairly spotty. And there's also some information in there that raises some doubts, saying that whaling was the only reason why those whales went extinct. There may have been some sort of natural population decline happening at the time that also led to like the extinction of Atlantic gray whales.
When you
Also,
pair those two together, it's not very good.
Yeah.
So do you think that the reason there was gray whales over in the Mediterranean was that might have been their breeding?
Yeah, so
That's
then
what it talks about.
after framing up all this information, they then make the argument that the Mediterranean is a suitable breeding habitat because it's very similar to other areas that gray whales use for breeding grounds. And there is some suspected, very spotty historical records of whales breeding there near shore, like maybe right whales or gray whales. So then they get to these archaeological digs, and there was 11 specimens that were large mammal bones, and they were able to do genetic sampling on them, and 7 of them they got definitive answers. 3 of them were
Cetacean.
gray whales, 3 of them were right whales, and 1 was an African elephant.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah.
The African elephants are hanging out with the whales?
So these are from human what do I want to say? This is where people lived. They had these bones in their villages and stuff. So they're saying that they think that the elephants were used by the Carthaginians in the war against Rome. And so that's how those elephants got there, is that they were war animals.
Ooh.
Isn't that wild?
Well, I wonder what their range is above, like in Africa. I wonder.
There was something in there. I don't know if I copied it over to my notes for this episode, but there was a note in there about that. Slater, about the elephants, looking at their
like what their range is. Like, did they bring them all the way up from South Africa or Botswana, or were they like, you know?
Well, I think they were northern African elephants that then like humans had. What's the word? Domesticated. Yes, thank you. And then, you know, when you have these huge war efforts going on, that you just move stuff around with elephants, or you know, that is your weapon. So
Wow.
train them.
Dude, that's crazy. that's the best thing about whales is that like the history between humans and whales and stuff is like crazy, and it just opens so many other doors. Like now we're talking about freaking African elephants because we were talking about gray whales in the Mediterranean. Like what?
Yeah. They're sort of looking through these specimens, and they're saying if their thoughts are if the specimens came from migratory whales, then maybe their calving grounds are south of the Mediterranean. So like, why did they come in there at all? Kind of is their logic. Or it's like on the very eastern side of the Mediterranean, like kind of on the outside. And
Well, and it
there
says
is
it
documented
probably.
calving grounds off the Western Sahara for right whales.
I see.
Wow.
So
Is the med like relatively warm? Like
yeah.
I feel like I feel like it's salty or something too.
I
it's
think
a
just
smaller
thinking of
body of
Red
water.
Sea, but
So.
yeah, I mean, I think its salinity is probably pretty high because it's warm water. And it's a lot calmer than the open North Atlantic, you know.
Wow.
And
Sounds
Oh,
sounds like
kind of
Baja.
sounds good for whale watching. Good
Yeah.
weather, whales.
There's also some records, like some human written records that are quite old, where there's like this 3rd century description saying there's this mysterious ram fishes near shore in the Mediterranean Sea. So it's like, what, a ramfish? Is that a right whale? Like when they're swimming with their mouth open, you know, or a gray whale when it's swimming with their mouth open? Like,
So maybe it's the feeding grounds.
or they just stopped over and fed that. Yeah, it's hard to say, but you know, there's enough like sort of patchy evidence to maybe put together an argument about it.
Well, have they found gray whale bones on the western North Atlantic, like the west coast
on
of
the US
or the
side,
east coast
yes.
of the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't think there's been any calf remains
that's really
found,
what.
but there
But
have
even
been gray
then,
whale remains found.
even then, you could have a calf in Alaska
Like,
that's like pretty small. You know.
When I was researching this, I found some Graves Reef National Marine Sanctuary, which I think is off the Carolinas, Georgia. They have gray whale evidence of gray whales there.
God, I feel like there's just all this information that just hasn't been put out yet. Like, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah,
I think obviously it went out to some people, but you know, it's taking other folks a while to get onto it, or like, you know, I stumbled on this paper because we kept asking questions about gray whales.
I remember, yeah.
Google Scholar it, and I just like went down this rabbit hole for a couple hours.
Dude, I don't know how you find all these articles. You're amazing.
She's a
What the-
genius, dude.
She's an actual genius. We have one genius and 2 idiots on this podcast.
2 little turkey burgers, dude. Are just trying to learn.
Oh my god. So
That's crazy to me.
some final thoughts. Whoever wrote this paper, they really chased down a lot of ideas, and I really, really liked it.
It's well written, yeah.
One final thought they had about the whole use of the habitat from gray whales and right whales was also thinking about such a large loss of these animals having broader ecosystem implications. So, you know, the calves are prey for killer whales, and what did that have an effect on killer whale populations? Whale migrations are essentially could be viewed as conveyor belts of nutrients across their range. So with the loss of these animals, you know, what's happening with the nutrient cycling, and is that having an effect on the ecosystem on a much broader scale than anyone realizes? Is it having these cascading effects? Is primary productivity less in the Mediterranean now because these whales are not there, you know, stirring up the sediment, and lactating females are not there, you know, putting nutrients into the water column, you know.
So it goes back to that thing like what we were talking about earlier with the blue whales. If they're not there, mixing it all up, then.
Well, it's like the same thing like whales, how whales affect bears. Remember that one?
Yep. Nutrients getting pushed in from Yeah, getting transported from the ocean to the terrestrial ecosystem and then having an effect on. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, dude.
killer
Whales are
whales-
so
Dude,
crazy.
no, it's not just whales, dude. It's the whole Earth's interconnected.
Yeah.
We
I
just
know,
can't see it
but
because we're weird humans that just can't figure
whales
it out.
play such an important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally one of the most important parts.
Yeah.
Like oh my goodness.
Adam, if you guys could see Adam's face, his mind is fried.
Dude,
Wait.
but think about it. Think about it. Like the gray whales are still here in the Pacific, right? And I feel like the Pacific has a pretty healthy population of like mammal eating killer whales. But think about the Atlantic.
Yep.
The one species of it. I guess I don't even know if they're mammal eating or.
I have some
Fish eating
information
off
that
of-
I've been saving up for an episode about Atlantic killer whales, but I haven't actually read through it a whole lot yet. But stay tuned.
Maybe
But
there's
I
not a
do
lot of
tell-
coverage over there, but
I do tell people that on the whale watch boat out here in Massachusetts, they're like, "Do you ever see killer whales?" And I'm like, "Well, not really. I mean, it's just not a super common sighting. I personally don't really understand a lot about the North Atlantic killer whales on this side." But I always say to them, "There's really not as much food for the transient type as there used to be." And so I am always curious about how their population handled the loss of so many large whales. Like
Maybe that's why all the ones up north are like herring eating killer whales.
Yeah, because
There's
they're the
no
only ones
whale.
that can survive because their food
Well,
source didn't get all snapped
But
up.
they
around them.
also in like Iceland, they also have killer whales that eat dolphins too. I think
Yeah,
they have
there's some speculation. Do those same whales eat mammals and
both.
fish? Like,
I think that they eat dolphins up there. I think I heard about a meeting. I have a question for you guys. It does say at the end of it, it says North Atlantic right whales and gray whales were previously found and were probably common in the Gibraltar region at least up until late Roman 6th century AD. You guys hit me with this whole AD thing. This is where I get lost. The BC and the AD.
6th century? That's
Yeah.
like year 600.
Yeah.
I get that.
But
what's the eight? Why AD?
No, the
No,
first
it's-
century was 0, so the
it's
year
after-
it's
it's after-
year 700.
After death, right? And before Christ?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
what they
remember,
say.
the Romans killed Jesus, if you believe that story. So that's where we're at.
It means
So,
like
and science uses that?
Anno Domini. That's what it means.
Yeah.
AD?
The year of our
Anno
Lord.
Domini. Yeah.
What is it? Say it again.
Anno Domini.
Anno Domini. All right. I got some homework.
Dude, my freaking head hurts. This stuff is awesome.
It's called science, Adam.
You guys are both being haters before this episode.
We
Oh,
were.
gray whales.
100%.
He was like, "Oh, you have a full special
Dude,
on
this
gray
is like-
whales."
Like 18 papers on gray whales, and I was like, oh lord.
It's crazy because a lot of this stuff makes you want to dig up some bones too, though. You know what I mean?
Trust the process, boys. Trust the process.
A lot of this stuff makes me want to freaking build a time machine and go hang out with some Mediterranean gray
And the
whales. and
Eocene.
freaking
Eocene.
Eocene.
Let's go back to the Eocene.
I bet there was tons of. Well, they're probably not gray whales then. They're probably gray elephant whales or something weird. We don't know. That's probably why there's bones. They were probably friends back then.
Okay, so the last thing I have, we'll go through pretty quickly because it's kind of sad, is the 2021 annual research report from Mexico. So this is from San Ignacio and Magdalena Bay, and it was not great. So they did surveys in January, February, March, and the first week of April, looking at numbers of whales overall, numbers of mom-calf pairs, and sort of just comparing it year to year. And it was pretty low overall. And there was also reports of lots of really thin whales. There was reports of whales trying to feed while they were in Baja. And so the boat survey counts for, let's see, is this the full abundance one? I'm trying to make sure I'm on the right one before I start reading it. Total count.
Not good, man. Those poor whales.
Okay, total counts of gray whales in Laguna San Ignacio for 2021. The highest they had, the peak of single whales was the 27th of February. They had 162, and they had 13 mom calf pairs that same week, bringing them up to 175 whales. The peak of mom calves sighted in San Ignacio was the 18th of March. They had 89 single whales and 19 mom calf pairs. That brought them up to
19.
108 total whales. And that is quite low compared to their normal count. Like
19 cow-calf
the
pairs.
12th of March in 2016, they were looking at, 130 mom calf pairs.
What year did you and I go, Caitlin? I guess I went last year. Or no, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
130? Holy crap.
Yeah.
There was how many were there?
5, something like that.
How many was 2019?
2019 was also quite low. That same time period, they were just over 20 mom calf pairs. I mean, that was when the UME started in 2019. It was not great. I remember the guide saying to me when I was there that there's not very many whales here. We still had a great time, but they were like, there's not very many whales here.
I definitely met one of the calves, so if there was only 20, that means I met one of the 20.
Yeah.
Dude, that is bad.
Magdalena Bay Lagoon Complex, which is 3 sites that they survey: Bahia Almejas, Bahia Magdalena, and Canal Santo Domingo. They had, like, in all of the survey dates for Almejas, they had 1 mom calf pair on the 6th of February, the 26th of February, and the 5th of March. Which maybe they just don't use that area.
Was it bad weather too, though?
And then Mag Bay, they had 0 every survey date. And then Santo Domingo Canal, they had none on the 21st of January. They had 6 on the 7th of February, and they had 2 on the 28th of February. So, pretty.
Do they fly over these lagoons?
I think they're vessel-based surveys.
The water's so green anyways, you would never know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a drone would help there.
Well, not a drone, but like an actual...
Or a flight, yeah.
Helicopter, plane, or small
That's
plane.
so bad. What?
Wait, so what was the total number for this year? I'm trying
Um,
to pull it up on my phone, but...
I don't think... Well, for San Ignacio. Oh, it's for all of them? So, yeah, 19 was the highest, and they had, what, 2 in the other bays?
Okay, so if there's only like, let's say 40 calves born this year, and 2 of them we saw, well, only 1 of them we saw get eaten here, and another one was just like next day.
It's kind of tricky because the dates that they're seeing mom calf pairs, they're not photo identifying matching. So week to week, it could be.
Yeah, so it could be.
So you're saying it could be even less?
Yeah.
Well, at the very least.
But this is only from San Ignacio,
right?
and the Magdalena Bay complex.
What else is there besides that? Guillermo Negro.
Yeah. Which is a big lagoon.
Guillermo Negro is a big lagoon.
The killer whales have to know it too. Then they probably know the science of what's going on.
Dude, but they seem to be having a feast. Whereas the springs after 2019 and 2020 were slow. Well,
Yeah.
2020 we don't really know that well because of COVID, but 2019 that spring was fairly slow.
I wonder if they should be eating these gray whales if the gray whales are sick.
It's not up to the killer whales to decide that.
No, what I'm saying, if the gray whales are sick, they shouldn't be eating them.
They're definitely underweight, but I mean those California transients are some of the most toxic whales out there besides the southern ones.
So they're not doing well. Well,
I mean they eat sea lions that are freaking full of DDT from Southern California. So what do you want them to do?
I'm gonna put
biomagnification.
Put a sign out in Point Pinos. Don't eat these ones. Only eat harbor seals from
Big Sur.
What's it called? No, yeah, Big Sur or from Lover's Point.
You know what I'm doing because of this, and I've gotten really sad. Change my background.
You're gonna cry.
So The other thing that was interesting, so not only did they do a full, like health assessments, numbers, they also looked at the arrival dates, and they said the arrival of adult gray whales occurred in mid-January, approximately 2 weeks later than was observed in the years of 2011 to 2017, but it was more similar to the winters of 2018, 2019, and 2020. So the whales are about 2 weeks late. And then the departure times were, the northbound takeoff was still pretty similar across the board to normal year.
Now I wonder if they can compare those arrivals to the 1999 and the 2000 El Nino.
That would be interesting. I don't know if this organization has data that far back, but that would be an interesting thing to look at. So
we used to always say, well, not like some of the natural speeches when I was growing up on the fishing boats and stuff was like, the gray whales wait until the water starts freezing over in Alaska and then they leave. But it's like if the water never freezes over anymore, then
they don't leave.
Yeah, well, is it going to come to a point where there's just not going to freeze over ever and then they just like don't know what to do?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely something that I still was taught as a naturalist, is that the ice coming down is one of the environmental cues that they use.
That can't be the only one, though.
It could be that, but it also could be that they're late because they're not finding enough food all summer. So they're trying to eat for as long as possible before they have to absolutely go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more of a choice than it is a lack of signaling. Is, I guess, where I'm going with that. But they did say while the numbers of newborn calves this year are low, the calves and moms did actually appear to be in good body condition and did not appear to be did not appear to be skinny like the single whales. So the single whales were the ones that were documented to be very thin. The ones that were down there.
Even then, this year, I can't really recall any like really skinny gray whales. The mom and calves looked really good this year specifically, except for the one.
I literally saw like 12 gray whales this year, honestly.
So think about the
really. We saw so many mom calves.
Think about the population level implications of this. The moms that are really good at finding food are the ones having babies.
Ooh, true.
And there's also just less babies overall. So is this going to create some sort of like population bottleneck? Is there going to be some sort of like environmentally forced selection? Like what kind of implications does that have for a population overall? I don't know. I guess it'll depend on how long this issue lasts.
Oh, gray whales need help too, huh?
Yep.
I'll fight for them.
Help. It's hands on sight, dude.
They did use drones to do some of their aerial survey work and also to do the health assessment. They did body measurements with drones. I'm reading the bottom of the thing. They also have a drone photo of a bunch of feeding pits in San Ignacio. Like that they make when they dig in the sand. Oh, sad. And there was one entangled gray whale that was disentangled.
In the lagoons?
They were wire lobster traps.
Where? In the lagoons, it was
that was probably off of. I bet that was. If they're a lobster, could that probably be like Southern California, huh?
Yeah, or I don't. Is there a lot of lobster fishing in Baja? I don't know. I'm not.
Well, yeah, I would say it's probably like Central California and down. Yeah. We don't have lobster here in Monterey, right? We do
but not to support a fishery.
Yeah. Spiny lobster.
So in total, the photo ID effort. Oh, they did document some Western North Pacific gray whales as well. So they had. Where's the number? We continue to photograph. Blah 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 blah.
There's probably some whales. I guess it's just like scarback. I bet there's some pretty distinctive gray whales that they see in lagoons every year.
There was 3 Western gray whales documented in San Ignacio this year, and their photo ID effort overall revealed 746 individual single whales, 43 mom calf pairs, And the average residency time for a single whale in the lagoon was 9.3 days, and females with calves was 36.4 days.
Damn, 9 days. They go so many miles, dude, for 9 days.
Miles.
But they also could leave
way.
that lagoon and go down further. They could, you know what I mean? They could lagoon hop too, right? So
how often do we see them breeding on their way down and on their way back?
yeah, gray whales like to mate.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then Magdalena Bay, they had 506 single whales. Average residency was 8 days. They had 6 female mom calf pairs. Their average residency in Magdalena Bay was actually only 19 days.
Sheesh.
So, pretty cool report.
I like this topic.
I'm not sure how to link this particular report to the Facebook comment section yet, but I will try and figure it out for you all, because if you want to be able to read it, I will try and get it for you as well. But as per usual, when we post the episode link on our Facebook page, in the comment section, I go through and put our show notes, like, so that you can access the papers and stuff too. So I know that someone asked about the North Atlantic gray whale paper, and that will be in the comments when it goes live on the Facebook page. So yeah, gray whales. Don't doubt me, boys.
Hey, I did it.
I doubted.
Adam
I doubted.
you,
It was me. It was me.
I just go with the flow.
I want to go back. I want to go back through our reports here and see how many calves we had. We must have had 20 this year, like at least here in Santa Barbara.
Every single pair.
That's one.
Are you trying to flex on us, Adam? That you saw all calves that were born?
Just saying, dude. We literally had one day where we had like 5 or 6 calf pairs, just like.
Well, if you would have got a photo, maybe I could have seen if it was the one that was in the hunt.
Oh no, I don't know.
But instead, you were probably making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the galley.
Oh my goodness.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Gotta pay them bills. Wow, dude, gray whales are awesome.
6 pairs from San Ignacio and 6 pairs from Magdalena Bay. There's no numbers in this report from Rio Negro.
That was a great episode.
That was
really
long,
but I love gray whales.
Wow.
My mind's like blown thinking about that freaking Mediterranean whales.
If you don't go to Gibraltar with me next year,
Slater, listen. You've been to the lagoons. You've been to Maui. I haven't done anything. All right, you're ahead of me already.
I'm trying to invite you to Gibraltar. You
young grasshopper.
I looked up flights around $800
right now.
Each
also,
way.
you have to quarantine for 14 days, but who's counting?
Chump change, dude. It's fine.
All the money you saved on your flight, you're going to spend on a hotel while you're in quarantine.
True.
Yeah, but that'll be on the way back. We don't know what's going on there. They might already have it figured out in Gibraltar.
Then we can't get back into America.
Gibraltar probably has a COVID shield.
It's all right. I'll just stay in Spain. It's not.
It's like the name Gibraltar. I'm telling you, they got some fancy stuff.
All right. What's the secret whale this week, or secret word? You want to do Gibraltar because you keep saying it?
No, it has to be something like let's see, what would that be? That would be the Eastern Atlantic gray whale.
Western Atlantic.
Well, if they're going to Gibraltar, they're the Eastern Atlantic.
Right.
How about
Eastern Atlantic gray whale? Mediterranean gray whale. Say Mediterranean gray whale.
How about E. robustus? I can't say it's
Crictus.
What is it?
This.
It's Crictus.
It's Crictus robustus.
It's cricket.
Cricket whale.
Cricket whale. That's a secret whale this week. Cricket whale.
Just put secret whale, whatever you want. You make your own whale up.
Choose your own destiny this week in the comments.
I like the cricket whale.
Cricket
whale. I like cricket whale.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, you're amazing.
It was super long. If you made it this far, you're the best.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for following along on social media, for supporting us on Patreon, and sharing our podcast with other folks so that we can get more listeners. We really, really appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Or night.